War Eagle Auburn family, it is Sunday evening. You know what that means. It's time for another edition of the Auburn Experience podcast. We're going to be talking about a lot of things related to Auburn. It's going to be a little bit different tonight. We'll talk about what that is coming up right now. War Eagle again, Auburn family, War Eagle E2C Network family. Thank you so much for joining us, whether you are watching live, whether you're watching on the replay. We appreciate you being here, hanging out with us, being part of our little family within the Auburn family. Most of you know the drill. Most of you know what happens on Sunday evenings. It is our live recording of the Auburn Experience podcast where we talk about all the things within the Auburn experience that you can talk about sports, culture, and of course, just specifically the Auburn family. Normally, I have my co host alongside of me, Austin Scott. As you can see so far, I haven't introduced him, and he will not be able to join us tonight, nor will we have another special guest. As you can imagine, it is summer, and we're all taking opportunities during a less busy time to get vacations in and all that kind of stuff. And that's going to be one of those situations tonight. So it is just me here. And we will technically, I'm going to say technically, not be recording the Auburn Experience podcast tonight, even though we've kind of left it as that in the headline of the show. But what this is morphing into is a Wednesday night type of show where we literally just open it up to you and what you might like to discuss tonight that's related to Auburn. So this is now about you, the Auburn family. What do you want to discuss? What do you want to talk about? What's on your mind tonight? And I have made available, or I'm trying to, as we speak, make available for you as you see me working feverishly in the background because I thought I had already done this for you. Make available a call in link for you to utilize tonight if you'd like to call into the show. We often do this for our viewers on Wednesday nights. We're going to do so again tonight. You don't have to take advantage of it, but we would love for you to because we always love hearing your perspective specifically on things. But you can go ahead and get started. Let us know you're here in the chat right now. You don't have to call in unless you'd like to. It is available starting right now for you up in the top of the YouTube chat window. But do let us know that you're here by posting where you're watching from, your city, your state, international with a War Eagle. And go ahead and smash that like button if you think we've earned it. And we'd love to talk to you a little bit tonight. We can stay on for the full hour. My hunch is that everybody, just like us tonight, is a little bit preoccupied with getting out on vacations and stuff. So we might have a little bit of a slower night tonight. So we might cut out a little bit early. But I wanted to give you guys an opportunity to have a little bit of an extra opportunity just to kind of free range chat it up about Auburn stuff. So that's what we're going to do. I will be honest with you in terms of Auburn news. I've been a little bit checked out over the last couple of days simply because I've had a great time spending time with family, but it doesn't mean I'm not oblivious to some things that did or did not happen. So there are some things on the table like Auburn just said goodbye to their longtime equipment manager, Dana Marquez. I saw that dropped within the last, I think it's less than 24 hours. I mean, definitely less than 24 hours, but just in the last day, Auburn was expecting or hoping to get a commitment from a offensive lineman, Khalil House. That did not happen. Apparently, the Stanford Cardinal, of all places, swooped in and decided that it was a guy for them, and he has committed to Stanford. So the momentum that a lot of people were hoping and anticipating for the next portion of the summer hasn't really gotten started yet. A lot of people were thinking there was a silent commit coming to become official, and it did not materialize as of yet. But here we are discussing what may be the next commitment and who that might be, and if that Khalil House commitment may come back and materialize at the end of all this thing, but we shall see. So obviously those are a few things that were just off the top of my mind. There's plenty of other things that we can discuss related to Auburn sports or whatever. Don't be shy. Go ahead and join us in the chat. And of course, call in if you'd like to call in tonight. The phone line is officially open for you tonight. We think we've got one question already here. And as always, when our phone line is available, it's brought to you by our friends at allthingsauburn.net. All right. We did get a question. I'm not, John, I don't, when I say this, I don't want you to feel like I'm making fun of you, but this is like this is the first question that I get from most people these days. What about Jarquez Hunter? I'll say it again. There's not going to be any news about Jarquez Hunter. I need to like get a bullhorn and like scream that out over the internets. There's not going to be any news about Jarquez Hunter. And I know that's boring. It's not spicy. Now, look, there may be something that comes out at some point, but if you know about the situation with him, things of this nature are typically, well, it wasn't in this instance, but typically kept pretty close to the vest. From what we know, he's still with the team, participating in whatever they're doing this summer, but maybe was allegedly part of a suspension with some other players, allegedly. So nothing factual, nothing solid to talk on that front. We won't pretty much know anything until an announcement is made by coaching staff or administration, or he shows up on the field or not. So we will all speculate. We will all continue to wonder what the running back room might look like. Now, my best advice for people is not to worry about that right now, because what's going to happen is what's going to happen with that. And Auburn has a really good running back room, at least the potential that's there, even without Jarquez Hunter. Now, if you're without Jarquez Hunter, that's a huge missed opportunity. That guy is an electric athlete. When fans start to have the conversation the last two seasons, does Jarquez Hunter deserve to have just as much, if not more, playing time than Tank Bigsby? That tells you something, because Tank Bigsby was a freak of nature, and frankly, one of the more underutilized sometimes, but maybe just wrong place, wrong time running backs for Auburn in its history. And I often wonder what he might have been, what his story, what his history might have been had it been a different time and place for him at Auburn, because wow, was that man a beast. So unfortunately, the answer to your question is, John, I don't have any news. Nobody is probably going to have any solid news on this for a while. And so I hope that somehow can satisfy you. But that will be the information for now from most people out there, even those that are probably even more in the know than me. But look, seriously, you got a room with Damari Alston. You got a room with the likes of Sean Jackson. I know he won a scholarship, but doesn't see a lot of playing time. He's just a behemoth of a man. You've got Jeremiah Cobb. You've got Brian Body in there. Auburn running backs will be fine without Jarquez Hunter if that comes to pass. I don't believe it will, but I think we are in a really good position. It's one of the groups on this team that I feel really strong about, even if a hit were to happen to the potential depth chart. Another position for that would be like tight end, defensive back, mostly in different areas of defensive back. We talk about safeties, nickelbacks, cornerbacks, all that stuff. But for me, running backs is one of the areas that I look at and go, we're pretty blessed in that particular area right now. But I know I think here's the thing that's funny. This is the time of year, outside of Auburn having a secure quarterback, having earned and kept the job, which Bo did most of the time. It hasn't happened outside of that really any time in the last decade or so. Bo and Jarrett Stidham were like the only ones that kind of won the jobs and kept them for the most part, and stayed relatively healthy with a few exceptions. But we don't often get to talk about that, most of the time in the summer, people's minds are focused on, well, what's the quarterback situation look like at Auburn? And even though that conversation is still open right now, who's going to be the quarterback? Unfortunately, I think most people are starting to concede that it will be Peyton Thorne, although I wouldn't knock Robbie Ashford out of that equation by any stretch of the imagination. And frankly, I think those that completely dismiss Robbie from that equation are just not being quite fair or open-minded, I should say. But now the story has shifted to, instead of who's going to be the quarterback, is Jarquez Hunter going to play? Sorry, I went on a rant for that for a while, but it's funny. I hope John didn't feel like I was picking on him with the way I'm talking about this, but I've said a lot. The first question I get from people sometimes in a thing is, what's up with Jarquez Hunter? And you can tell where the Auburn collective mind's focus is at the moment. And I understand why. I do understand why. Okay, so what other big topics are on your mind tonight? This is not one that I've kind of noticed, but is not on the Auburn sports specific category, but because it's a place that Auburn fans collectively come together and talk about things. Auburn Twitter and Twitter in general was in an uproar over the last few days with some changes that were made to the platform. I'll be honest with you, I don't completely understand this. The rate limits on Twitter, essentially restricting how often you can interact, engage with content on that platform, which were, for the most part, pretty high previously. I reached it a few times with the E2C network account, but apparently it's about to get even worse. And I just know that Auburn fans were in an uproar, specifically since we're an Auburn content channel. We're talking about that yesterday. And I kind of understand why, but I also think it kind of shows how much we over rely on some things. When if your day is being affected that bad by a social media platform being changed or altered in a way, I think that's a good time to start thinking about, hey, maybe I spend way too much time on this thing. And that's me talking to myself too. But as I said a second ago, I'm not even sure what rate limits are, but I just found that comical the other day. The question that I have is, what's one of the best things about Twitter, specifically for Auburn sports, is how interactive things become in almost real time. Because, most of us are watching it from TV or stuff or radio, and there's a little bit of delay. But the interacting and having fun with it in the moment is good, but that's going to get harder to do if your rate limits have increased. So we'll figure out how much more we're all going to be affected by this, but only time will tell. James, what's going on, my friend? Thanks for joining us tonight. As you can tell, we are a little bit different tonight. We are not recording an episode of the Auburn Experience podcast tonight, but simply hanging out, talking, just because of some scheduling conflicts for Austin and myself. But our plan is to be back next week with the regular scheduled programming. Tonight, you guys get like an extra Wednesday night show out of this. Now, I will also go ahead and give you guys a heads up, and I should have done a better job of announcing this. There will be no Wednesday night show this week. I will be on vacation officially, and so this is a good replacement for that. But I don't want you guys to think that show is going anywhere simply because we miss a night of it. The Wednesday night show is still in effect. It is just simply vacation time for Kyle. He needs his rest every so often, even though I love being here and talking Auburn sports with you guys. James asks, Kyle, what do you think about the Perry Thompson chatter? Now, James, could you give me a little context to your question? Are you specifically asking about something that has happened over the last couple of days, or are you talking just about in general? Give me a little bit more context while I wait on your response on that, if you're able to. Let me set the table for those who aren't aware. So Perry Thompson is a highly rated wide receiver recruit who is currently committed to Alabama. And there has been a lot of chatter recently about him wanting to potentially flip from Alabama to Auburn, which would be a huge thing. Kind of as the shifting of the tide. Oh, there you go. The tide in this situation. So, what do I think about that? I'll be honest with you first. I said this at the top of the show for those that weren't here. I've been a little bit checked out over the last couple of days and hanging out with family, but it doesn't mean that I'm not somewhat up to date on things. The main thing that he's asking about is that him coming to Big Cat. Well, my reaction to that news is I'm not surprised. The dude, at least from all that we could see on his social media, on Auburn's social media in general, said he seemed like he had a great time and even was quoted, if I'm quoting this correctly from one publication, I don't know who to attribute it to, that Auburn had reached the same level as Alabama, even though he is committed to them. So with that in mind, that's got to make you feel really, really good. The thing that kind of, worries me about this situation, though, is it's starting to feel a little bit like the Cam Coleman situation, who started coming a lot to Auburn all in succession. And why hasn't he committed yet? Kind of thing. Are they playing us? Are they just having fun with it? Which is fine. It's their future. They get to decide what they're wanting to do. But at the very least, the fact that he had enough of a good time that he wants to be back here at Big Cat Weekend, that should tell you something right there. So right now, I would say my reaction to that is I feel pretty good with that news. Flame of War Eagle, good to see you. Thanks for hanging out with us and being here tonight. Robin says 24/7 social media ain't good for the brain. Check in all along. Yeah, I agree with that. It's been nice the last couple of days. I did kind of check out for the most part. I don't try to stay completely out of the loop when I get busy with vacation or family, but it is nice to kind of pull back a little bit and not be so into the end. Summer's an okay time to do that, because when we hit about mid-July here, my life is going to increasingly just ramp up. And I don't say that as a complaint. I say that as I get to do that. But boy, is it a lot to keep up with sometimes. So I hope you guys are ready for that, and we'll kind of get geared up with all that stuff. But in the meantime, what Robbins is talking about is a discussion about Auburn Twitter freaking out about the rate limits. I hope that you'll not make yourself so obsessive with things like social media, message boards, that when something bad happens, that it'll ruin your life. It's my bit of advice for you tonight, if you care. It's free advice, so it may be all it's worth to you. So what does it matter if it, Anyway, so keep your questions and comments coming. We'd love to hear some things that you want to talk about. Kind of going back to what James was asking. Perry Thompson apparently coming to Big Cat. Huge news. But I'm ready for a commitment. Hugh has gotten me used to a lot of just momentum and recruiting, and it feels like there was a lot building, and there's not been a lot of materializing yet from that momentum over the past couple of weeks in the summer. I should say a few weeks. The Khalil, I think it's Khalil is how you say that. Khalil House situation definitely put a damper on things. But here on July 8th, I think, we will have a commitment hopefully coming from someone in Malik Blockton out of Pike Road in essentially Mike Montgomery very soon. So that'll hopefully get things swinging in the right direction, and a few others as well, I know, that are potentially and have interest in Auburn. Hopefully Big Cat Weekend, I can't remember exactly what the dates are on that, will swing a little bit more momentum in our favor to actual commitments and things like that. Usually that's the case, is you get a commitment from somebody, whether it be the current class or a future class. And I think now would be a good time for Auburn to find a way to get one. What do you guys think? Who do you think will be the next commitment? Is it Malik Blockton, defensive lineman out of Pike Road? Or do you think it's somebody else? But I think it's a pretty safe bet there, in my view. Again, we'll continue to go where you guys want to go in this conversation, but also kind of bounce around. I was trying to think of news that we could talk about. I have not done a lot of research into him yet, but we got a little bit of a scoop on earlier this week about the new pitching coach who's been officially announced now. Meadows, I think his name is. Maybe I have that wrong off the top of my head, but coming from the Chicago White Sox, and he is going to be a good addition. I think it's official. I should have checked on that before I started talking about it, but at least last I checked, that was either official or becoming official. Going to join Coach Thompson's staff, replacing Rock Schoenhauer, who leaves after one season. And that should make a lot of fans happy, whether I'm not saying I agree with it, but a lot of fans wanted him gone after one season. My feelings a lot of times on coaching changes is I don't like 1 year stints that when we push people out simply because it does not build stability. I think it takes more than 1 year to start seeing the results of a change. But I don't make the decisions, and I'm not paid to make those decisions. So what does it matter what I think on that? But I'm going to share it with you guys anyway. So if you guys had any thoughts about that, new pitching coach is on the way for Auburn baseball, along with some new commits to and transfers that are going to be coming in. So with the exit of a few star key players, it seems like we'll have another new team to get excited about next year. It'll be interesting to see with the baseball team if Auburn can put together a year where they're not just good with hitting like this year and maybe up and down with pitching. And last year, which if I remember correctly, was pretty good with pitching, but up and down with hitting and scoring. So it seems like we're due for one of those years where we kind of meet in the middle and both are pretty solid, and maybe have a really strong year after that. One thing that I will always say about this team this past season is that if you were a fan that left early, that checked out early, you missed a lot of times this team coming back and proving a lot of people and a lot of doubters wrong. And yeah, so we'll continue to follow news like that. I'm excited to start getting some updates, maybe from there's other social media accounts about the new additions to the stadium and the expansion that's coming, at least the portion and phase that will be starting for this upcoming year. And I haven't seen any of those yet, but hopefully we'll get some of those coming down the pipe pretty soon. Let's see what else. That's the main thing when you're out of the loop for a little bit. It's hard to remember all the things that there are to talk about. Maybe this conversation. I've had a lot of conversations with just general fans, but I got to talk with some of my family members. Oh, we got some regulars checking in. Good to see you guys. Thanks for joining us. Family members this weekend, and we talked a lot about what should the expectations be for Auburn this year in football. And it's a conversation that we have pretty regularly here on this channel because it pretty regularly gets asked or brought up. And it seems like most people tend to agree that kind of that midpoint is 8-4, and that's probably where you should expect Auburn to land right now, with maybe ability to sway to the 7-5 side. The games that you look at up in the air and this is, I'm just speaking from when I'm talking to people out and about and what I see the chatter about too, seems that people put into question the Texas A&M, the LSU, the Ole Miss game, it seems like, the Georgia and the Alabama game. And I tend to agree with that, but for some reason, this Ole Miss game being at Auburn this year, I think is going to help us. And I have a sneaky suspicion that one of those Texas A&M LSU matchups on the road, we're going to sneak out a win. And so I think 8-4 is highly possible, but I have not given my official prediction. WT says your new background is too cluttered. Just kidding. Love the new setup. Glad you like it. I've changed the lighting over here a little bit. Let me know if it's like too orange, less orange. Last time it was too red. Trying to figure out what it looks like on camera. It should look less cluttered. mainly because there was less, well, I guess maybe depending on what angle I gave you guys. But I always wanted to have more of my things that I had in a bookshelf shown. And yeah, so I mean, this is officially the way things are going to look for you guys on live streams. When we do edited videos now, you're going to see maybe a wider shot of this with a little bit more of everything in it, and pulled up a little bit more, and the lighting and stuff a little bit better, because just streaming, the content quality obviously is not always the best just because of the internet. But this is what you're going to be looking at for some time. So I hope you guys like it. Right side is orange, right side is blue. And that's and just to pull the curtain back a little bit, that is a new YouTube thing, giving contrast on either side of you. So I hope that helps and plays to whatever it does out there. Devonta Ross, SEC Network should do prime time for the Auburn Ole Miss game. That may be a good concept or idea for a video down the line later this summer. I'm probably going to use this time this week while I'm on a vacation officially to brainstorm a lot of things and get some ideas. I'm going to the beach, so I'll be looking for some Auburn stuff out there to share out with our Booster Club members, and maybe a little bit on social media too. But yeah, while I'm down there, I'm going to be thinking about, some good things, content pieces like that. But which games outside of the ones that we know already will be night games, which will be day games? That might be a good prediction thing. Did you get rid of your Spider-Man stuff in the remodel? I forgot. I didn't know that you knew I had all that stuff. No. So basically, I know this is boring for some of y'all, but some of our longtime viewers, I'm happy you guys invest in the nuance and things like that. Basically, what's happened in E2C Network Central is I have another wall of other content that I do some YouTube stuff for on there. That's got some Spider-Man related things. That's all over there now. I swapped walls, changed some functionality in the room a little bit, tried to work on lighting a little bit more. And there's probably going to be some small tweaks here and there, but basically the room was flipped. Things were decluttered, reorganized, especially for things like setups of microphones, lighting, and so far so good. I love it. You missed an opportunity to put the Dustbuster on the shelf. Now listen here. That is probably, as much as I love the idea of putting a Dustbuster up there personally, I don't want to have to explain that on a regular basis, especially hopefully if we ever get business partners officially. And it is a good inside joke here for on the streams, but I don't know if I want to explain that to business partners. Devontae, I have a good feeling that 3 of the home games might sound like the 26 Auburn, Florida game. Could be. I think I don't know if I officially done this on last Wednesday night show, but I can say this here. I'm officially a season ticket holder for this season. I am not a renewable one, but I am for this season. I have tickets to every single game. I plan to be there. But you never know. We might give one up to somebody or give it out for a cheap price or something like that, if I feel like I need to stay out of the stadium and do some work. But I'm excited for now to have the ability to go to all the games. I think this is going to be an exciting season. Auburn fans have been looking for an opportunity to get excited about something after the last 2 years. And if the team shows any amount of gumption and any amount of excitement that is more than what a lot of people are expecting, you could find Auburn in a very unique and interesting situation, and that will only make the environment better. Good to see you, Rob. Thanks for checking in. Let's see here. I'm seeing an 8-win season for us. I'll be happy if that happens. I think that would be a good benchmark so far for the year. James, I think one of the reasons why most are saying a 6 or 7 and 5. Okay, I got you. 6 and 6 or 5 or 7 and 5 season relates to quarterback. Both but other teams in the SEC will have unproven quarterbacks as well. Does that level the playing field for Auburn? Good question. Good question. It certainly makes things more intriguing. It makes, at least speculation-wise, the parity a little bit better in the league. But Auburn's still got a lot of unanswered questions. A lot of them. A lot of not just quarterback, but questions at a lot of different positions. I mean, it's a new system. It's a new coach. So no one knows truly what's going to happen, how everything's going to mesh. So when people are having maybe what some view as maybe a more pessimistic opinion about the season thus far, in terms of not necessarily that we're going to have a losing season, but on the lower end like this, 6-6, 7-5, I'm not mad at it. I understand why you're there. I just think it's appropriate outside of extenuating circumstances for Auburn to be considered, at least when you're starting to make your preseason predictions, at 8-4, given who we are, our history. We've proven that 8-4 is a high possibility for us. So just my opinion on that. V1 Saucy. Not that we've ever seen you one before. I've seen you before, V1, but thanks for being here. At least I can't remember seeing you here. Who do you think will be the starting quarterback? It's the other big question that gets asked a lot. I mean, the easy way to answer this is just go with where the betting money essentially would be with Peyton Thorne for now, given experience. But do not dismiss Robbie Ashford out of this. Hugh Freeze historically seems to like those very quick, very fast, very athletic quarterbacks. And that is very much in Robbie Ashford's favor. Although it seems like he can move Peyton Thorne can move pretty good too. Kyle is going to feel weird. It's going to feel weird. Is it going to feel weird to you not seeing the regular old season next year? Will be to me, but I welcome the change. Is it going to feel weird to you not seeing the regular old season? Help me understand what you mean by that. I'm not getting the gist of that question. Is it going to feel weird to you not seeing the regular old season next year? Are you talking about the regular old schedule? Like the opponents in terms of Ole Miss and Mississippi State, LSU, and Arkansas not being regular opponents anymore? Is that what you mean? Give me a little bit more context. Whoops. The biggest question for Auburn football to answer will be if the new guys gel together to make a team. I feel Coach Freeze is the right man to get that to happen. Well, it's the challenge every year, right? I know it's a different sport. Well, no. Here. Perfect example. Last year, Texas A&M. Every bit of talent in the world, you'd think they couldn't be beat. We're not a good team. In fact, they were so bad, they were worse than Auburn. That says something. So, yeah, look, he looks like he could do that. Let's wait and see what happens with this field. Here's what I hear from Coach Freeze when he talks about the team this upcoming season. There's a lot of tempering of expectations. I think that is not a cause for alarm. I simply think that is an understanding of where you find yourself and setting a baseline that is appropriate to work from. I don't see anything wrong with that. So Corey, to clarify, his last question was, how do I feel about us not having the Mississippi teams, LSU? Yes. I talked about this a little bit previously, but I'll talk about it again. What we gain out of what we lose is okay to me, and that is including LSU. Auburn needs to see Tennessee. Auburn needs to see Florida. Auburn needs to see South Carolina. Auburn needs to see Kentucky, Missouri, Oklahoma, and Texas now more than they originally would be able to in this schedule and in this way things are run. This allows for that. And if, my gosh, that means we don't get to see the Mississippi schools every year and LSU, I'll take it. I love the LSU rivalry in game. I love the Tiger Bowl. But would I give up the Deep South's oldest rivalry? Would I give up the Iron Bowl? Would I give up the opportunity to see Texas, see Texas and Oklahoma more, but to see Tennessee and Florida specifically more? No. Auburn comes out good in this scenario, even with the loss of an annual LSU rivalry game plus the Mississippi schools. Devontae, if Auburn University hosts a pep rally the night before the Georgia and Alabama game, where do you think they should have it? Oh, if you're asking me, Toomer's Corner would be the best way to do it. The place would be rocking. They do one of these every year right after the homecoming parade, and I guess that's going to be Samford this year. Just looking at how the schedule lays out. It's going to be a hot one again. There's always a pep rally on Samford Lawn right after that. I encourage you to come to it if you can. I usually go. Ooh, excuse me. Told you had a busy weekend. I would say Toomer's Corner specifically. Here's the thing, though, Devontae. Auburn doesn't need to do a pep rally before the Georgia or the Alabama game. They just don't. The hype will be real there. Now, look, I think the Georgia game, if I'm not mistaken, please correct me if I'm wrong. I think the Georgia game is the 5th game on the schedule. And if I have that correct, if Auburn does what it should and is expected to do with games 1, 2, and 3, and somehow goes to Kyle Field and takes down the Texas A&M Aggies, and Auburn and Georgia are both undefeated at Auburn, Hugh Freeze has got it rolling. Somebody bring in College Game Day. That's your pep rally right there. And that's kind of what Rob was talking about here too. WT, I grew up with Auburn playing Alabama, Georgia, Florida, Tennessee every year. I can adjust to changing schedules. Absolutely. It is, as I said, the losses are mitigated by the gains in this scenario. Are the 4 division pods of teams still being talked about for next year? A lot of steam seems to have been lost there. It seems like the 3 permanent opponents and rotating everybody else is the way most people are going. So I would say that it seems like that's lost some steam. I like the concept of pods, but I also still love a division idea. You just have to go to 9 conference games. And I think that's the way this is heading at some point in the SEC. This for the 2024 season is just delaying it as long as they can because they know the SEC will beat up on itself. It's just the reality. The best football is being played in the SEC right now. And there's no argument against that. Prove me wrong with who wins your national titles. When you start doing that, Big Ten fans, or ACC, Big 12, Pac-12, when y'all start doing that, I'll shut up. But we don't need to play 9 games right now as much as I want to play 9 games. If you go to 9 games and you go to still 2 divisions and you do the traditional, with the addition of Texas and Oklahoma, the Southwest Conference and the Southeast Conference, and call it the whatever Super Conference, that would make a lot of fans happy. Geographically, traditional rivalries, and I think that fixes a lot of problems too. Yeah, Corey, this was a really sad situation, and it's made me very cognizant. This week, I'm heading to the beach myself. For those of you that don't know, Ryan Mallett passed away in what's been a deadly summer season so far. At several beaches in the Gulf Coast, riptides pulling people out further than should be, and some drowning and having complications from getting stuck out there. So very sad. I watched him myself, Ryan Mallett versus Cam Newton in 2010, and whoa, what a show that was, Auburn versus Arkansas. Very sad. So be careful out there. It's made me very cognizant when I'm out there, as much as I love being in the water, that I got to be careful. So I will be thinking about that. Obviously, we pray for his family and all those that have been affected by this thus far. What are the teams Auburn will continue to play every year? We don't know yet. Saucy. We do not know yet. We know that they are trying to preserve traditional rivalries. What does that mean? That means the Iron Bowl. That means the Egg Bowl. That means Alabama, Tennessee. Does it mean Auburn, Georgia? Feels like that's one of the ones that may get on the chopping block eventually. We don't know, but I can promise you they'll play SEC teams. I can promise you they will play Alabama, but I can't promise you that they will play Georgia every year. 2024 may have been an appeasement for what's coming, in my humble opinion. Corey says, I'm not keen on 9 games. That's a bit of a gauntlet to run depending on your schedule. It is. But can I just be honest with you, Corey? For me personally, it's more about selfishly what I want to see. Auburn football is better than no Auburn football. But my gosh, sometimes it's just boring to watch Auburn. Well, what they should do, and other teams just beat up on rinky dinks outside of the Harsin era, especially early on and on homecoming games, that final or the second to last weekend in November, however it usually pans out that way. So I would really like for us to have 9 SEC games. Would it hurt the SEC in some ways? Sure. But what we gain as fans would be worth it in my eyes. So I just want good football to be played. And let's be honest, sometimes that football is not being played well by the other teams from the smaller conferences playing Auburn and other teams, but also Auburn sometimes didn't play its best football against those because it plays down. So pick your poison. So, all right. Keep your comments and questions coming. Caught up for the moment. Want to keep hearing your thoughts about anything football, basketball, non-sports related. If you want to talk about Auburn summer stuff or best Auburn foods, let me know. We can talk about anything here. It's really fair game. Just as a reminder for those that may be of you, especially live, that checked in late here on the show, we are not doing a live recording, obviously, of the Auburn Experience podcast, simply because Austin and I were not able to get our schedules lined up specifically this week. We plan to do that next week, but I hope you guys can appreciate that we are in the middle of kind of opportunities to vacation, and that could present some challenges at times. So our goal is to always do one Sunday night for you, barring a few circumstances. But tonight will not be one of those nights. It is simply just us hanging out together, talking about Auburn stuff. And I still love it because I love just shooting the breeze with you all and talking about things that we love. Phone lines are open if you'd like to call in. It's not a necessity, but love to know, see your smiling face or hear your voice. Can do either or both. Let me know. We'll close that down in a little bit if no one wants to take advantage of it. I think eventually we'll get to 14 to 16 games in a regular season like the NFL. It's all about the dinero. I think it's a little extreme, Corey, but I do agree that we may see the game amounts increase. The one issue that I would say is with your prediction there is that as much as this is now becoming more of its own business and as much as it's becoming its own separate entity and in some people's eyes being destroyed, it is still beholden to academic calendars and it is still beholden to things of that nature. These are still student athletes. Student comes first. And if you just kind of look at how usually, especially, let's just, using Auburn as the example, academic calendars map out, there's not a lot of room for them to get the time they need to study, for them to get the time they need in between semesters and breaks and things like that to accomplish the things they need for football, but also for their own educational purposes. So I don't think it lends itself to that type of scenario you're talking about here, a 14 to 16 schedule season. But I could see more games being played in the postseason, aka a playoff, where not everybody is involved and you don't have the college football world staying active for an initial 2, 3, 4 more weeks. I think 16 games. Let me clarify. If you're saying 14 to 16 games, you said in a regular season, that's too many. But if you're saying 14 to 16 throughout the postseason, that is more likely in my eyes. Expansion of the playoffs will result in tougher and lengthier schedules. It will for postseason, but it doesn't have to for regular seasons. I think right now the regular seasons will remain the same, but the expansion of the playoffs will definitely push that further and further. Excuse me. Into the December and January month. And but if they start playing the playoffs, in the first part of the middle of December, like they're able to with some bowl games, it shouldn't be that much of a problem for schedules. And probably would lay out quite nicely. And more games for the top teams every year, which is good, right? We want good football. Football is great, but we want good football to be played. More football. So if the answer was just more football, period, the USFL, the XFL, and then the AAF, those y'all that remember that, would be thriving right now in terms of being almost equal with the NFL. But they're not, because the answer is the best football always wins out. So that's why I say 14 to 16 regular season is just too much, in my opinion. But that's all it's worth. So it's free opinion, free thoughts on it. You take it for what it is worth. What else haven't we hit tonight? I always say this, and it feels like I should stop repeating it at some point, but I feel like I'm forgetting something kind of major. Just can't pinpoint exactly what that is. If they're not doing divisions anymore, how are they going to have an SEC championship? 2 top teams, period. It's very simple. 2 top teams, go. Division, you don't have to have divisions to require who the top 2 teams are. Now, will there be a debate at some point if who's 2 and 3? Sure. Or even if 4 is in the equation there too, should they be considered number 2? That's why you have tiebreakers, and it's no different if they're in division. Divisions just assure that you have a direct path to the SEC championship game. That's all it is. I like it, not knocking it, but it's very easily managed. The SEC championship game, that is, without divisions. I think that's kind of goes back to what we were just talking about. The best football is what we want played. We don't want Kentucky to have a solid year in a weak SEC East and end up against an Alabama. Nobody wants that. It's just awful. National championship determined by expanded playoffs is better than arbitrarily selecting 2 to 4 teams. Absolutely. I agree. I said this a lot here. My opinion is that it should be everybody has to join 8 conferences, however many number that is. Figure it out amongst yourself. The champions go. That's it. None of this at large teams, because I want some of these smaller schools to have their shot. But I think we should consolidate the power amongst 8 conferences, and those 8 go to the playoffs for quarterfinals, semifinals, and 3 weeks of playoff fun is just enough. I think that's plenty. I think that's what it should be. Ooh, Corey, breaking news for me at least. Auburn's getting a Melts restaurant, a high-class grilled cheese sandwich. You are speaking my language, sir. I had no clue what a Melts was before you got here and talked about this. But grilled cheese? Yes. Doesn't feel like Auburn has one of those yet. So that's a really good thing to add to the equation. Um, I would say that I'm kind of hungry now if I hadn't already had something very cheesy earlier. That's a good little bit of tidbit of information that I'm gonna have to be on the look. Is that so? It says it's getting one. It's not open yet. I'll have to check that out when it comes available and look up when it's going to actually happen. Robbins says, I'm old enough to remember a 10-game season. And just think, Robbins, how awesome now it is that you get to watch potentially 15. Did you ever think that you would get to watch 5 extra games in a season, potentially? Guaranteed 2 more than that. Likely that you'll see 3 more than that, maybe a 4th one, and maybe a 15th one. If I did my math right, correct there. The best grilled cheese sandwiches are made at home. Maybe. I'm not going to put it past them. Melts. That's a good name, too. Corey says this melt place that's coming to Auburn has a couple in Birmingham, and they're expanding into Auburn next year. Yeah, I think you're going to see that happen more and more. I think not to here. Everybody who waits for this, here it comes. Ring the Buc-ee's bell. I think Buc-ee's is becoming a beacon that Auburn is ready for a higher form of tourism. And you're going to start seeing more and more of these franchises enter into the equation here at Auburn, or franchises or people starting businesses there. With the town growing, with the hotels going up, with all of that. And if the sports teams continue to get better, it's only going to make Auburn continue to become less and less, in some people's eyes, less of the loveliest village on the plains. But I think it'll always still maintain that. But no shock that they're expanding out of Birmingham into Auburn. Not shocked at all. All right, we're going to wrap this show up here in just a few minutes. So go ahead and get your final comments, questions, derogatory rebuttals in right now. Don't leave just yet. I want to give you some information that's very important for E2C Network over the next week, but also just give you a heads up about what we're about here and all that stuff. So stick with me and we'll take some final comments, questions, and things. First things first, what's the schedule for this week? As I've referenced a few times throughout the stream, I'm going on vacation in just about a day or so into this week. So I will be, and E2C will be somewhat kind of checked out on social media, video-wise, content-wise. There will be some, but don't think that we have disappeared. We are going to be back. We're just taking the breaks that we can right now while sports are on hiatus and getting some much-needed R&R. But the important things for you to know this week, that there will not be any officially scheduled videos, but you may see one pop up or two. There will be no Wednesday night live show at 8 Eastern time. And we do plan to still, at this moment, come back next Sunday at 9 Eastern time to do what would have been tonight, episode 42 of the Auburn Experience podcast. But stay tuned for that. And that will be a little bit of the schedule going forward. I do anticipate after this week that we will be back on the normal regular schedule for the foreseeable future, because SEC Media Days is coming up. Lots of other things are going to get geared up, and I will have done a lot of my vacationing. So as much as I need this, I'm excited to be getting back in the saddle, getting back into a regular routine, ready for this season of Auburn sports to get going up here, because we need a much better year this year. Other things to keep in mind, though, if you can, if you're interested in helping keep the lights on here at E2C Network, there are ways that you can do that listed in the description of this video. One of those, you need to be a subscriber, inching ever closely to 4,000 subscribers. When we hit that, we're going to do that giveaway that we've been talking about forever. It's long overdue. It's coming, I promise. You could be a channel member. Sign up here for $1 a month. It's all it takes to get on the board, helping keep the lights on here. You get an icon next to your name. You get an emoji access. You also could join the Booster Club, which is a little bit different entity. It also starts at $1 a month, goes up with different perks. Join that if you can at patreon.com/E2C network. All those links are in the description, plus many more. And we appreciate those of you that take part in that. The biggest thing that you could do for us, though, is be here. The biggest thing you also could do for us is smash the like button and the share button on social media if you see our stuff out there. The last biggest thing that you could do for us is tell a friend. Help people find us. Help people become part of our little family within the Auburn family, and that is very much appreciated. All of those things are options for you to help us, and we appreciate whatever it is that you can do to be a part of this thing we're doing here. Let's see here. WT said Auburn's new target is noise. I added the noise part, but maybe that's how you meant it to be read. I don't know. I may actually make a swing through Auburn on Tuesday on the way to vacation to get an image of that. I can't promise that. It's not completely beholden to my schedule, but my hope is that I will be able to make a quick stop there to see some things and then carry on through to vacation time. So as you brought up here, stay tuned for that. If you're a member in the Booster Club, it's a good thing to be. Just my last pitch for that. Remember, it's $1 a month, patreon.com/E2C network. Links in the description. I often share exclusive clips, and either if it's in Auburn or not, just about things that I'm getting there. And sometimes that when I make random trips to Auburn, I kind of share some quick snippets and things from there on that app. So check that out if you're interested in that. It's one of the big draws there. Appreciate those of you that are in there. All right. Have we hit everything? Any other big news story discussion that we did not hit tonight? I appreciate those of you stopping by. I appreciate those of you being patient with our change in schedule and topic essentially tonight. We plan to be back next Sunday and do our spring 2023 review, talking about baseball, softball, track and field, golf, tennis, mainly the first two, though, discussing that in some great detail, kind of taking a little bit of a review. And I'm sure we'll have some big topic to discuss by the time we get back together in a week. So stay tuned for that. And hopefully we're going to get some recruits to talk about here, some commits to talk about here very, very, very soon. I think I'm going to leave it on that for you all. And I appreciate you being here, hanging out with me, being part of our little family within the Auburn family. And you guys are the best. So thank you so much for being here. Until I get the opportunity to talk to you again, hopefully very soon, if not next Sunday evening at 9, I wish you a good and not final, but a War Eagle to you. And I hope to see you very, very soon.